Hello, and welcome to my thesis dissertation for the skill of thinking. This is our term research essay for our writing and research English class. I've decided to make my essay on the skill of thinking. An overview of a few of the main topics I hit on during my essay, as well as what I'd like to go through in this dissertation, include, first of all, thinking is a skill that can be developed and learned through practice, discipline, and the study of the subject. Second of all, this skill is important to all aspects of our lives and is a relevant thing to study and to go over. Third is that thinking is subject to many influences such as bias, especially in the modern era, where you have a lot of different information coming from many different sources to us, as well as simply our own desires that influence how we would like to decide outcomes when we're thinking. Thinking is a skill. We naturally approach thinking as something intuitive, something that can just happen without effort. It's easy to believe that you're either smart or you're not, that you can think well or you can't. This could not be further from the truth. Thinking is actually a skill that can be developed, refined, and strengthened over time. Just like any other ability, it improves with practice, discipline, and awareness. When people actively work on how they think, questioning assumptions, analyzing information carefully, and reflecting on their reasoning, they become more effective thinkers, regardless of where they started. Thinking as a skill is important to our lives, and like we mentioned earlier, it's a relevant study topic. Every part of our lives is affected by our ability to think because our thoughts shape the decisions we make, the way we interpret situations, and how we respond to challenges. Whether we are solving problems, forming relationships, or setting goals, the quality of our thinking directly influences the outcomes we experience. Clear and critical thinking helps us to make better choices, avoid mistakes, understand the world more deeply, while poor thinking can lead to confusion, bad decisions, and missed opportunities. Thinking is subject to bias. Thinking is subject to bias because our minds naturally rely on past experiences, emotions, and assumptions when interpreting information. Instead of viewing situations completely objectively, we often filter them through personal beliefs or expectations, which can lead to distorted judgments. These biases can cause us to favor certain ideas, ignore opposing evidence, or jump to conclusions without fully analyzing the facts. As a result, even when we believe we are thinking logically, our reasoning can still be influenced in subtle but powerful ways. Moving to why I chose this topic. First of all, was its relevance to our everyday lives and activity. As we covered earlier, everything we do is rooted in thought. And in my essay, I looked over the effects and importance of thinking. And again, it is a base function of everything we do, we feel, and everything we achieve. And second of all, I have experienced in the past a good bit of brain fog, times when you feel like your brain simply doesn't work, doesn't think very well. And this made me want to study some methods of thought that I can fall back on when I get into these ruts of thinking. And I believe that I did that in this essay, and it's something I'd like to continue to look into more as well. My topic relevance, how it's relevant to me, but also relevant to the field of study in which it's based in. First of all, it provides a baseline understanding of what we are pursuing and improving and discerning the skill of thinking. Second of all, it compiles multiple different areas of this topic, from the original philosophy of thought to modern works adapted and evolved to fit modern problems and contexts. Going with the first point here, when it's providing a baseline understanding of what we're pursuing, we've decided what thought is and what we're pursuing, what we're trying to achieve. And then second of all here, it's very cool how it can flip that and add it and put it into these modern contexts and show how these truths have held true and how these methods have helped shape the reality and the society that we live in now. It's very cool. And then third, it helps discern methods in order to give a guideline for thought. Just like this brain fog example just earlier, it helps certainly to help give a guideline, to give something to fall back onto when we're trying to decide these ways of thought and these ruts, when we're in a rut of thinking or in a test or some bad situation, when we're trying to find a way to fall back on, find a method, an equation for thinking. These methods are very helpful to study for those. Research I did during my essay. I researched and based much of my essay on philosophical thought from early philosophers as well as colonial and Reformation thinkers, as they were some of the first to begin to define thinking in a rational and logical sense, and define those methods. Second of all, I brought my research into modern context using modern thinkers and psychologists who have continued the study of thought and its practices in the modern day. As an overall analysis of my thinking, or in my findings and of my essay in general, I believe I created a cohesive and understandable piece of writing with a consistent flow of thought and results backed by both classic research that held its truth for hundreds of years, as well as modern research that places these time-trusted truths and tested truths in modern contexts and continues to develop these ideas. This project will continue to shape and challenge my methods and discipline in thinking and aid me in becoming a better and more consistent thinker as I continue to develop this skill. In continuing my research, things that I would like to continue on based on some of the findings that I've had in this essay. As I covered earlier, this essay was very helpful for defining thought, defining what I'm studying, defining what I'm trying to pursue, and it's just a baseline. That's the main idea. It's just a baseline. Aristotle, in his book Rhetoric, defines rhetoric as not a specific science of a specific field, but a science of arguing any field. And that's what thought is in this context. It is not a specific science in a specific field. It is the science of thinking and pursuing any field. So, given a more focused aspect in that, I'd like to conduct further research into more situational aspects in thinking. There's a ton of literature studying how we react and thought reflected in our actions in a multitude of given situations, such as tests or competitions, or in joyous situations when we're happy, when we're comfortable, and how we react given these different situations. So I'd certainly like to look into these, especially I think it's really cool watching athletes and, how they can perform in, practice versus how they perform in the game, and how the pressure affects how they can think and perform and those different things. And so I look forward to continuing my research and pursuing this idea of thought more. Thank you for listening to my dissertation. Please leave any questions, any comments below in the My Courses discussion area, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you.